Assalamualaikum. I'm Nur Hafizah binti Ahmad Hasidatullah, 17 DUP20F1003. Me and my friend will present about the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on demand for inbound tourists, outbound tourists and domestic tourists in Malaysia. Coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19 is defined as illness caused by a novel coronavirus called severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, which was first identified amid an outbreak of the respiratory illness case in Wuhan City, Hubei Province, China. It was initially reported to the World Health Organization (WHO) on December 31, 2019. On January 30, 2020, the WHO declared the COVID-19 outbreak a global health emergency. On March 11, 2020, the WHO declared COVID-19 a global pandemic, its first such designation since declaring H1N1 influenza a pandemic in 2009.
Among the impacts of COVID-19 pandemic on demand for inbound tourists, outbound tourists and domestic tourists in Malaysia is to limit the entry of tourists into the country. The World Health Organization (WHO) on March 27 record an increase in COVID-19 pandemic cases worldwide with 465,915 cases reported with 21,031 deaths involving in 190 countries. Other countries and even some major flights have been suspended. Malaysia itself has taken a more serious approach to control the spread of COVID-19. The approach includes movement control orders, PKP, border closure, health checks and other further measures. The government will not open the country's border gates arbitrarily. Instead, the entry permission of non-citizen visitors depends on COVID-19 situation, information from their country of origin. Foreigners from 23 high-risk countries, including Bangladesh, are not allowed to enter Malaysia except with the permission of the Malaysian Immigration Department. Bangladesh is one of the 23 countries whose entry is restricted because it belongs to the high-risk countries of COVID-19. The second is 75 million at-risk jobs worldwide. The COVID-19 pandemic that has hit the world, including Malaysia, is a health crisis that threatens the survival and well-being of society. The International Labour Organization (ILO) expects the COVID-19 crisis to increase the unemployment rate, especially in the service sector. The informal sector in developing countries is the most at risk. According to the ILO, of the 3.3 billion workforce globally, 4 out of 5 workers were affected by the closure of premises either partly or completely. Workers in the service sector, particularly food and beverage service, recorded the highest percentage of job losses, 35.4%, followed by agriculture sector, 21.9%, and construction sector, 11.8%. In February 2020, the Malaysian Employees Federation (MEF) had estimated that 1,000 workers will be laid off should the spread of the COVID-19 virus continue until the end of 2020. However, the assumption is opposed by the Ministry of Human Resources (MOHR) because it is speculative and does not take into account the various initiatives that have been, are and will be implemented by the government to protect the interests of employees. Since the Movement Control Order (PKP) came into force on March 18, 2020, both parties have aggressively issued various counter statements on employee issues, focusing on the interests of employers and employee welfare. PKP raised unrest among employers who see it as unfair. The government also encouraged negotiation between employers and employees. Clearly, this announcement provides considerable relief for employees who have experienced a reduction in income since the PKP came into force. The third is that the population is declining. Malaysia recorded 9,671 deaths due to COVID-19 during September 2021. That number makes September the death least month since the COVID-19 pandemic began. Authorities in Malaysia explained the increase in deaths from COVID-19 was due to an increase from previous months whose calculation were delayed. Per capita, although new COVID-19 positive cases in the country have declined in recent weeks amid increasing mass immunization of the coronavirus vaccine, the number of deaths from COVID-19 in September 2021 was more than a third of the total 26,335 coronavirus infection patients reported to have died in Malaysia. Coronavirus cases in Malaysia have more than 2.2 million cases, or the largest in Southeast Asia. The Malaysian Ministry of Health confirms many deaths due to COVID-19 were reported too late, even up to several months, because of the increasing number of patients with coronavirus infection has made hospitals and testing laboratories overwhelmed. The Malaysian Ministry of Health last September began publishing daily database of the time and date of death of COVID-19 patient. This is to increase transparency and clarity. The fourth is GDP loss. While there is no way to tell exactly what the economic damage from the global COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic will be, there is widespread agreement among the economists that it will have several negative impacts on the global economy. Yearly estimates predicted that should the virus become a global pandemic, most major economies will lose at least 2.9% of their gross domestic product GDP over 2020. This focus was already restated to a GDP loss of 3.4%. To put this number in perspective, global GDP was estimated at around 84.54 trillion US dollar in 2020, meaning that a 4.5% drop in economic growth result in almost 2.69 trillion US dollars of lost economic output. Global stock markets have also suffered dramatic falls due to the coronavirus outbreak, although they were able to recover from the loss quite quickly. The Dow Jones reported its largest ever single day loss of almost 3,000 points on March 16, 2020, beating its previous record of 2,300 points that was set only 4 days earlier. The economic damage caused by the COVID-19 pandemic is largely driven by a fall in demand, meaning that there are less consumers willing to purchase the good and service available in the global economy. This dynamic could be clearly seen in heavily affected industries such as travel and tourism. To slow the spread of the virus, countries have placed restrictions on travel and many people could not purchase flights for holidays or business trips. This reduction in consumer demand was the reason why airlines lost planned revenue, and as a result, they had to cut their expense by reducing the number of flights they operated. Lastly is loss of tourism product. The first intersector theme park and family entertainment centers in the tourism industry were closed since the COVID-19 pandemic hit Malaysia. The sector has faced loss of more than 5 billion in the past 18 months, and the number is expected to continue to reach. The impact of the pandemic on theme park and family entertainment center is severe. Already many theme parks are closing their operation completely or selling to others. If this situation continues, more than 30% of theme park and family entertainment center will close their operation forever. To date, 18 operators have closed their operation, and this number is expected continues to increase. It has resulted in 40% or about 15,000 of the 50,000 workers in the sector having lost their jobs. Nearly 50,000 workers are directly involved in the theme parks and family entertainment center sectors. It does not include support workers and contractors involved in the sector. The number of job losses is likely to continue to increase if the operation of theme park and family entertainment centers are not reopened.
Hi, my name is Nur Nadia Binti Zainal with number matric 17DUP20F1002. I will continue this presentation with the demand for tourism during COVID-19. First of all, a re-territorializing movement of practice anchored to local subjectivity, desire, and needs. This means the demand to restore the atmosphere before the existing of this COVID-19 by way of giving tourists the opportunity to travel with the knowledge that their safety and healthy are protected and well taken care of. Secondly, activities in the field of tourism require good care. This means that in all areas of tourism, there must be SOPs set to ensure the safety and health of workers and tourists who come, so that the economy of the tourism industry does not fail. Next, mobile consumer demand has halted mobility, leaving places with economy structure tailored to capture mobile consumer demand. This means that in order to advance tourism, we need to upgrade online systems such as social media, website and application so that mobile users can easily make requests in this tourism system, as they do not have to go to the counter but only need to go through the online system. The next demand is to follow the SOP set by the government during COVID-19. This means that in this field of tourism, if tourists want to travel, they must comply with the SOP, which is the 1 meter distance between others, wear a mask, do not gather in large number, and scan My Sejahtera always. So, in this COVID-19 plague situation, we have to comply with that SOP. The last in the demand for everyone in every country to take the vaccine. This is to protect themselves from being infected with COVID-19 and to reduce the effect of COVID-19. This means that tourists who want to travel must complete the vaccine in terms of the first dose and second dose. This is to reduce cases of infection and give everyone a normal life.
Next, in conclusion, the COVID-19 crisis has a big dark side, but this pandemic also has a positive side. As an example, we have more time with family, cleaner environment, honesty, acceptance, and more. In other words, if we continue to see the brightest side of life, then it will be easier for us to adjust ourselves to all the adversity we face. I think that's all from me, and thank you for your cooperation.